I don't really know what makes a truly great life for everyone, let alone some random person who's watching this, right? All I know is that these things help me and could possibly help you. But I have identified a few themes at least that will be very helpful to most people. And maybe you just like one or two or three resonate with you that you can add. It doesn't only require 5 things to live a great life. So in this video, just take it as some of these could be useful to me. Before we dive in, I want to welcome you to our channel, Hack That Habit, where our mission is to help you live more effectively. Because I think most people know generally what it is they want to accomplish. The getting there, the way there, the approach and process to making that become a reality is the difficult part. And that's what we've gotten pretty good at figuring out how to implement here at Hack That Habit. So all of these videos are a way to help you make your dreams come true. I know that sounds insanely cheesy. That's why we say live more effectively, but take it as you will. Again, find the parts that resonate with you and add them to your current strategy for living. Okay, let's get into today's video. 5 things that make a truly great life. Now, I think the first thing we want to cover before we get to the 5 things is actually the difficulty most of us experience confronting these deeper questions of, well, what does it actually mean to live a great life? But if you can muster up the courage, whoops, that's number 5. If you can muster up the courage to confront these deeper questions and values within yourself, you're going to set yourself up in a much better way than you otherwise would. And this leads us beautifully into our first truly great thing, which is awareness. We need this ability to find that blip on the radar for almost everything in life. If you can't identify it, if you're not aware of it, it's going to be really hard to change it, right? It's a shot in the dark. So what the awareness does is really create some sort of a map for us to understand what is causing this to that. But awareness is really that fundamental understanding that we need to be present in the moment to be able to identify what is causing us to feel a certain way, to think a certain way, to act a certain way, so that we can, if it's not the way we want to, come back and identify that point where we want to shift. I think there's a beautiful quote by, I believe, Viktor Frankl, but I'll put it up on the screen. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Does that not just give you the chills? And Viktor Frankl, if you haven't read Man's Search for Meaning, please do yourself a favor. The gist of it, I think, is super powerful to really understand. Because again, coming from the awareness point, the quicker or closer that we can get to that point of bad behavior, or, hey, I really like this, what is that point causing this good behavior? How do I get more of those in my life? The more aware that we can become, the better off we're going to be in terms of adapting our behavior in a way that benefits us. This is also the awareness of what is beneficial to us. Having that broader understanding of what beneficial means to you, why that might be, again, going back to one of our other videos, questioning why, so that we can confront the underlying motivation of why that might be a good, beneficial thing for you to do. All right, number 2 for living a truly great life is relationships. Now, we'll put some resources below, but human-to-human contact and deeper connection is vital to quality of life. The second highest correlate to longevity is deep human connection. Okay, quality relationships with people you love, whether it's family, friends, mentors, anything like that, that will really help you increase your quality of life, that increases the longevity of that life. And right below that is human-to-human interaction with strangers. Okay, complete strangers, but it's still this connection that we share as humans within this thing we call existence. I get that longevity is not this perfect proxy for living a truly great life, but it comes pretty close. Okay, if we look at some of the reasons why people live super long is because they have a reason to live. And I think past just the data, what really makes sense to me for relationships is having the sense of, 1, community and belonging, but 2, this give and take of difficulty going through life, right? Let's not, I think something I really want to do with this channel, and partly for myself, is to constantly remind us that just being dropped into existence is not an easy thing to cope with. So the more human to human connection that we have, the easier that is to bear. When we confront existential angst, even if it's a micro amount, it's so much easier to take on when you have someone that you love, that you share a deep connection with, that you can talk about these things with, as well as daily stressors from failing a test or losing your job that you can kind of displace among your friend group, your family group, your support system, so that it's easier to cope with and move past. There's a reason that humans got to the top of the animal kingdom, because we figured out how to cooperate, how to work together on common goals so that we can become better, right? I think the principle is called Gestalt. I might be mispronouncing that, but it's this idea that the sum of the parts is greater, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. There we go. And the other thing is, this is a beautiful quote by, I believe, Jim Rohn or Tim Ferriss, where it's more or less the 5 people you hang out with most dramatically shape your life. So really focus on who those 5 people are. What that really means is, because we have mirror neuron systems, we have encounters all the time on an ongoing basis, and you do something good, I'm more likely to do that thing. If you do something bad, I'm more likely to do that thing, even though it's bad, and vice versa, right? So the people that you spend the most time with are gonna have a bigger impact on what you actually do, how you process things, how you go about your day-to-day life, than someone that you don't spend as much time with. So the deeper the connection, the more impact they're likely to have on your life, and vice versa. So the more deliberate we can be about the who, the better off we're gonna be when it comes to the what we do. And this ties into number 3, which is purpose. Now this one might seem quite obvious, but if you're not operating from a place of deeper meaning and purpose-driven passion, then you're really going against a lot of what nature is telling us to do. We have these feelings of stress and anxiety when we're not pursuing what we really want to for a reason. If you're at a dead-end job that you don't care about, that you're just doing for a paycheck, there's no question that if you moved into something that you really want to do, if you pursued a passion of yours, then that anxiety, or the anxiety from that, would be alleviated. And the other beautiful thing about passion is that discipline, which so many of us seek, is included in this passion. Think about 2 people. One loves math, one is driven by math, that's their purpose. The other one is just like, oh, this is a homework assignment or whatever it is. I hate math, it's stupid, it's hard. Who of these people do you think is going to get more problems done? I'm guessing it's gonna be this person, because to me, when you have some sort of attachment, when your identity is attached to something and you get value from pursuing, right? When there's intrinsic value, there's intrinsic motivation, which is a well that can't be quite tapped. So that discipline seems to be at least woven in some way to this purpose. And we all know that willpower is our limiting resource. So the more willpower that we can kind of get automatically from pursuing something that we actually enjoy, this is all to say that discipline is easier when you have purpose. If you genuinely want to do something, whether it's go see your kid and pick them up at school or write your first novel, when you have that passion from within that gives you that purpose, it's gonna be so much easier for you to get that thing done than it otherwise would be. So if you want to, again, live more effectively, if you want to use your resources more effectively, the more that you can use them in a way that you enjoy, deep meaning enjoyment, the better off you're gonna be, the higher the output. But I think most of us are a little bit scared to pursue the passion and the deeper meaning purpose, which is okay, that's completely normal. I'm not entirely sure how to guide you in that sidestepping of that fear, but all I can say is that when you do that, you will feel so much more authentic to who you are. And if we can strive to live an authentic life that's purpose driven, I think that is, and I guess authenticity is kind of thrown in here, that's a 3.5 we'll call it. But when you can align those things and really be true to yourself, that's when you're going to be living and setting yourself up for a truly great life. And this idea of discipline being attached to purpose brings to mind a Nietzsche quote: "They who have a why can bear almost any how." That really shifted my perspective when I was younger. So it's like, damn, if you can really attach yourself to something bigger than you and important to you, then the way that you're going to get there doesn't matter. You're going to get there. It's the same thing as when there's a will, there's a way, even though we run out of will, but that's another story. But either way, this leads us into our next one, which is have a positive impact outside yourself. Now, the scale of this doesn't much matter. What really matters is that you're living for more than yourself. And this kind of comes back to that whole love selfishness. When you have one person entirely selfless for the other and vice versa, they just become a selfish pair of two. But when you can attach yourself to even more than two, and maybe that's where your bubble ends, and that's okay. If you've made someone else's life truly great, that should make your life great as well. But when you can attach that and increase that even more to more and more people, the bigger and better impact that you can have on others. I remember when I was younger, I heard this story. It was my first hearing of this story of a monk just going into the mountains and living by themselves. Initially, I was like, oh, that's cool. But then, as years went by, I was like, holy moly, that is selfish. Unless they come back and share what they've learned, right? If knowledge gets lost in your head and stays in your head, you're not helping anyone. And again, if you're not turning that intention into behavior, you're not helping yourself and you're not helping other people. Mirror neuron system. With the current ability of technology and communication these days, it's never been easier to affect more and more people's lives in a positive way. So attaching yourself to greater than just you, and maybe you're tight-knit, that is, again, for me, a very big ingredient for a great life. And this is not a good life, right? I'm talking about a great life. I get that it's difficult to think that you have to influence other people, but whether or not you're trying to deliberately, you are influencing others. So the more conscious you can be about how you're doing that, the better off I think all of us will be. And just as a quick little tip before we move on to number 5, the mysterious number 5, if you have a difficult time beginning, if you want to help people at scale in some way, but you're having trouble starting, try setting what we call an upper limit for yourself so that it can increase the chances of you actually doing that behavior. And I'll give you a quick example of what this means. So this draws on the idea of what is called the Yerkes-Dodson law. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, where it's basically there is a good middle ground of motivation for you to do something. There can be too much motivation, which causes too much pressure and anxiety and all that. And there could be too little motivation where it's frivolous. It doesn't really matter. It's trivial, right? So finding that Goldilocks middle ground of motivation can be really helpful. This pulls over to not only motivation, but ability, right? Are you doing something that's within your current ability or just past, right? If you want to enter flow state, you're going, I think it's like 4% just above your current ability. So what an upper limit really is saying, okay, instead of saying a minimum of, let's go with push-ups, instead of doing a minimum of 10 a day, I'm going to do a maximum of 20. Okay, I'm not going to do any more than 20 because I think a lot of us have this feeling that if we do a little bit, we have to do a bunch. And if we have to do a bunch, then that is going to be this big effortful process that we don't necessarily have the time or energy to do today. So we always put it off, right? We're hyper rationalizers, super easy to not do things. So always beware of that. But what this upper limit does, this, hey, I'm only going to do maximum 20, that says, oh, okay, well, if I'm not doing more than that, I could do 20. That only takes like a minute or so or whatever it is. So it brings out this scope of control. It kind of zooms you out and says, I don't have to go from 0 to N. I'm going from 0 to 1. What it says is, here's the finite amount that you're going to do, or the maximum that you're going to do, so you don't have to think past this. It's all right here within our scope of control. All right, now to our mysterious number 5, courage. And again, like awareness, courage is fundamental to us pursuing all of these other things that make a truly great life, right? Connecting with people on a deep basis, in a deep way, takes courage. Being vulnerable enough to share about the deeper stresses that you're experiencing and being there for other people in their times of heartache or whatever it might be, that these deeper emotions that are easy to run away from, the more that we can have the courage to confront those together, the more likely it's going to be. The more courage that you can have to impact people outside of just your smaller scope and not care about what they think of your video or your book or anything like that. Courage is at the forefront of your ability. The more courage you can have to pursue things you're not already doing, the more likely you are to grow. If you don't have one, the awareness, or two, the courage to make these changes, one, identify and then actually implement, the courage of implementation, you're not going to change the way you want to. And I know that it's not easy. I think the thing that helped me the most, and I'll actually pull this up because it's such a beautiful way to look at confidence. This comes from, I believe, Jack Welch, where he says something to the effect of, confidence is having the courage to be open and accept an idea regardless of its source. And when you really tease this apart, what that means is you're accepting data. You're not accepting people's biases or your biases of these people or what's giving you the information. You're, as objectively as you can, looking at data or information and saying, this is good, this is not good. And what that does is really alleviate the pressure for you to know everything. The more that you can say bye-bye to your like ego and just admit, I don't know everything. That's why I tried to start this video saying, look, I don't really know what makes a truly great life for everyone, let alone some random person who's watching this, right? All I know is that these things help me and could possibly help you. And I'm trying to exhibit this courage of putting it out there so that you can, one, mirror neuron effect, get some courage as well. Know that this is not an easy thing to do, but be inspired to do it yourself in some way, whatever it means to you. And then also having the courage to accept your fallibility, accept that you don't know everything. All right, before we wrap up this video, I actually want to suggest a quick tip on courage. Again, if you're not implementing courage, then it's not going to help you, right? So here is a quick reframe that might help you implement some courage. If you simply say, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited, that turns what would be nervousness into excitement. And when you can flip that understanding of this emotion, this biological state that I'm in, not as I'm nervous, or even if you start as I'm nervous, all you have to do is say, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited. If you can get in the habit of whenever you feel that nervousness or you get that pit in your stomach, instead of going, oh my God, I'm so nervous, I can't do this. You go, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited. I love attempting new things. Implement that and see what it does for you. Do it on small scales first, right? You don't have to move mountains tomorrow. Try to do it in a little way tonight. All right, I think it's about time to wrap this video up. So we've covered the 5 things that can potentially make a truly great life. Now I hope that at least 1 or 2 of these have really resonated with you and that you start to implement them in some way. But again, like every single video at the end, and if you're done and you just want to watch more, go ahead, do it. But if you're ready to put some of these things into action and actually implement what you've learned, we're gonna have a link in the description where we're gonna walk you through how to make behaviors become a reality. If you intend to do something, but you have difficulty going from intention to behavior, we have deconstructed the way that we make that happen on an ongoing basis. So it's not just intention, behavior, it's intention, behavior, 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 habit. Habits are the way that we can behave the way we intend to, as much as, maybe not as much as we want, but they give us the best chance at success. So if you're ready to go from intention to behavior to habit, check the link in the description and we will see you in there.